it's just something about going on a surf trip. I came back more energized. I remember distinctly in that lineup, I saw a woman with dreads, with locks, like me. Hers were a little longer. And she was melanated, just like me, but like lived in Costa Rica, and she was shredding. She was so good. And I even remember asking her, like, how do you do it with your hair? Like, I can't believe that I had someone in the lineup that I could ask about because, so I came back feeling a more like a better sense of belonging.
Hey, thanks for checking out the show. That's Sierra Brown, co-founder and program coordinator at Changing Current, an organization committed to promoting diversity and inclusivity within the surf travel industry. Changing Current's hope is to foster a community of empowered individuals who not only gain access to new experiences, but also become advocates for a more just and equitable society, all through the lens of surfing and traveling. And while that's definitely something that I can get behind, this conversation is a little different than the ones I've done in the past with CEOs, experts, and industry veterans. Namely, because Sierra is, as she'll admit, still so new to all of this. She's new at being a founder, she's new at running a nonprofit, she's relatively new to surfing, to modeling, and if you ask her, she's still trying to just figure it all out herself. But that said, Sierra really has some very wise words and a perspective that I was eager to hear more from. Our story began when she approached our booth at an event this summer to share a bit about the organization. And we struck up a conversation, and I actually realized that I had a lot of questions for her. You see, Sierra and I share a few similarities. For starters, we both appreciate a good book, are eager to do good in the world, we love traveling, and we both sometimes revolve our lives around surfing. In fact, as you'll pick up, Sierra absolutely loves surfing, so she might spend more time revolving her life around it than I do right now, but my experience as a surfer, however, is much different than hers. Sierra is a Black woman who surfs. And of course, as we discussed, that definitely doesn't define her, but it is her lived experience. And it's an experience I wanted to learn more about. In our conversation, Sierra shares her journey from finishing school, getting the job, quitting the job, taking that first surf lesson, and making that first trip to Costa Rica, and realizing that yes, surfing and traveling was indeed for her. Sierra has been through a lot these last few years, and in our chat, she speaks openly about being in and working her way out of a really dark place. But she shares stories that many of us might be familiar with, struggling to get that lucky break, feeling overworked and overwhelmed with adulting. But all in all, this is a story of joy, knowing where to find it, how to tap into it, and how to create it for others. And it's a story about going places, both physically and figuratively. There's a lot to soak up in here, and I'm so glad that Sierra took time to share this story with me. I hope you enjoy and maybe learn from this talk as much as I did. So with that, here's my conversation with Sierra Brown. Welcome to Good Things Happening, the show that explores the sustainability progress that's being made just under the surface at your favorite brand or company. I'm your host, Derek Sabori, and these are the people making it happen. Sierra Brown, hello, how are you today?
I'm doing pretty well. I am enjoying my week off right now. I got carried away reading that I've been reading some pretty good books lately.
Well, I'm going to dive in and I'm going to ask you about those. That'll be fun to get into. And yeah, week off. I know you're busy. You do a handful of different things. So we're going to dive in and explore all of those things. You and I met at Surfscape. It was a Surf Industry Members Association event up in Huntington Beach. And you came to our booth, the Underswell booth, and we had a great conversation. I was really intrigued with what you're doing. So I want to dive in, get to learn more about what you're doing with your organization, Changing Current. I want to know more about you. You're a surfer. You're working in the tech space as well, it looks like. You're a nonprofit founder. So first of all, where are you dialing in from? Where are you calling in from today?
Yeah, so I'm in San Diego. I just moved here in March and I love it. I'm in the neighborhood South Park, which is southern San Diego. I'd say like the closest surf breaks are Ocean Beach and Pacific Beach, all the
Hmm.
breaks along there.
Yeah, yeah. I know the spots a little bit. Where would you move from? Where were you before that?
Before I moved to San Diego, I was in Manhattan Beach. My home break there was El Porto. I was right, I'd say like steps from the beach, right in between Bruce's Beach and El Porto. So I was in like a small beach apartment, right around there. And that was a pretty fun experience. It was a bittersweet experience because I surfed every single day, which
Mm.
I've been trying very hard to adjust still. As you had mentioned, I'm tech adjacent. I like to say, working for a technical recruitment agency. So it's constantly going. Like I have a remote job, but it's the type of job that I need to be like sitting in front of a computer for 8 hours a day.
Mm.
And living right by the beach made surfing every day so much easier because, like, taking an hour out of my day to go surfing was a little bit more realistic and doable. Whereas now I need like 2 hours to um, make up for like the time it takes to pack up the car and then like go to the break, find parking, unpack the car, put your wetsuit on, go surfing, come back, all that kind of stuff. So,
Yeah, and then unpacking, putting it all back, rinsing off all that stuff. It's a surfing is a luxury, I think, for for us, right? Right. So I want to get into that. I mean, so obviously you're a surfer, and that's what drew you, I think, or how you got drawn into the surf industry event down there. But you've started this nonprofit organization. So tell me a little bit just about yourself in general as a surfer. Tell me what you do, tell us who you are, and then maybe dive in a little bit into how you found surfing, because I know a little bit of that story, but I'd love for you to share it with us.
yeah, thank you for asking. I am originally from Georgia, which is not anywhere near the water. I mean, we have Savannah, but I don't think people surf in Savannah, and I didn't live in Savannah. I'm from Dallas, Georgia, which is the outskirts of Atlanta, like the very, very outskirts. I think as I was growing up, I remember lots of like cows and horses, and we had a lot of two-lane streets, one going in the opposite direction. Things closed at 9 p.m. There was we growing up in high school, like the thing to do was hang out at Walmart. We had a Zaxby's. And, but I was always fascinated with skateboard culture. I definitely had like an emo phase growing up, and all of my friends were skaters, and I tried very hard to skate, but I was not very good. So I just kind of gave up on it. And aside from like cartoons like Rocket Power, I and then like a few TV shows here and there as a preteen, I just kind of was like, oh yeah, surfing is cool, but I never thought like, okay, yeah, this is something that I can be. Because also I didn't know anyone who surfed. So I moved to LA in 2018 to kind of get my foot in the door in the entertainment industry. I went to Florida A&M University, which is a historically Black college in Tallahassee, Florida. And I had a broadcast journalist degree, tried that out, and lived in New York City for a little bit and was totally disillusioned with how difficult and the like the reality of being a journalist living in New York City. I realized very quickly I do not thrive in that environment. And I had a family member that lived out here and had beckoned me to come to Los Angeles and give a entertainment industry a shot. And so I followed through, although I didn't have any money and I didn't really have too many connections. Um, so I was like, what can I do until I get my coveted assistant job? And I worked at a yogurt shop in Venice. right on the boardwalk. I think it was called Boardwalk Yogurt, which is not there anymore. And right outside of the shop is a parking lot. And so there would be these dudes that had this old 1960s Volkswagen van. I think it was orange. And I think the name of their business was like Cowabunga Surf or something crazy, like just stereotypical.
So it's like it was a surf school kind of thing, surf instructors.
Yes, and
Okay.
they were all like white, leathery, red, bronze skin. They had this blonde hair, never wore a shirt, never wore shoes. I would just see them camping out in front of the yogurt shop, and I just remember coming into work every day like, I really want to try that, but the lessons were like $90, $180, and I'm like working for 13, $14 an hour part-time. There's no way I was going to be able to afford that. So I just kind of tucked it in the back of my mind, like maybe one day when I get a big girl job. So I finally secure a job in the entertainment industry as an assistant, and I just got really caught up in the hustle and bustle and grind of getting it in the entertainment industry. So this was 2018. So then fast forward, COVID happens in 2020. I am disillusioned again with my career choice and being in, I call it assistant purgatory, because, you're waiting essentially until someone taps you on the shoulder and is like, it's time for you to be
Mm,
like a coordinator or like a writer's assistant or something more glamorous than working behind a desk all day,
mm-hmm.
taking orders, getting coffee. And I was just like really stressed out about my job. We had to do it remotely at that point. And I was also in a really weird place in my self discovery and really trying to figure out like who I am outside of work. And I couldn't come up with anything. So I just felt ultimately purposeless. And the stresses of my job did not help, along with the stresses of what was going on in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and at the time, I was in a suffocating relationship. So I was just like bad. I just was in a bad spot, like all around.
Mm.
And I was like, I had to move in with my mom at this point. Cause I quit the job. I quit the job. And I was like, I'm not going to stress about work and my life and whether or not life will ever be the same again. So I quit there, but I didn't have anything backed up or lined up afterwards. So I had moved back in with my mom, and at the time she was living in a one-bedroom apartment in El Cajon in San Diego. And my little brother, who we were both adults, was living with her as well. So it was very tight, very, very close quarters. I didn't have any privacy. I was very, 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 very depressed. And I
Mm.
was smoking weed every day to escape, and it wasn't really helping. Not to mention, it was very expensive, and I didn't have the funds at that time to contribute to that habit. So I was just racking my brain like, something has got to give. Like, I can't keep waking up every day and living the same day over and over and over again, not doing anything about it.
Right.
So once my stimulus check came in, I decided I'm going to buy some surf lessons. And so I bought a couple lessons at Pacific Surf School, which is in Pacific Beach. And I was honestly like, I had questioned some people that I had known about surfing, which, by the way, they had never tried it before and didn't have anything positive to say about it.
So you were asking the wrong people.
Right. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to give it a try myself. And based off of what everyone else has told me, if I die from getting bit by a shark or if I drown, then so be it, because my life kind of sucks right now anyway. And to my surprise, I stood up my first time and I felt weightless. Like,
Mm.
I really can't describe to you the feeling that I got when I first caught my wave, because I have been chasing that feeling ever since. It felt like nothing mattered. Everything like clicked. It seemed like my entire life was preparing me for that moment.
Wow.
And nothing had I hadn't experienced that much clarity in that moment. And I was like, oh, okay, so this is what I was put on this earth to do. Got it. So from then on, it's been like, when I say surfing has literally changed my life, it has literally changed my life. And at the same time, I was like re-establishing my relationship in Christ. So I was able to, and then I started going to therapy. So it was like all of these things started happening all at the same time. And it truly opened me up to a better, more healthier Sierra, which is why I love surfing so much, because through trial, through some trials, I have become less dependent on disassociating and trying really hard to stay in my body despite the awful things that come with just being a human being
Mm.
and waking up and going out and living your life. Being a human is great. I wouldn't trade it for the world, but it's not all sunshine and roses. And so, learning, my journey and learning how to cope with life in healthier ways, surfing has definitely become a huge part of that.
So, yeah, surfing really kind of saved you. It sounds like, in a way, it's like you found each other, right? And so I'm interested in, so the surf lessons did not come from the Cowabunga guys, who I'm imagining these like old guys. They've been doing it for 25, 30, 40 years, maybe more. But it wasn't those guys, right? Different set of instructors.
It was a different set of instructors, but I mean, it was still the same phenotype. Although they weren't old, they were like young. I think I remember two surf lessons distinctly. The first surf lesson was with this dude who was like 16, had to have been like 16 or 17 years old. He was clearly a high school student,
Mm.
had blonde, like the blondest hair I had ever seen. And he was so chill. I mean, he was so fun. It was a perfect day.
Mm.
The sun, it was like in September. So like, it was like the local summer in
Yeah.
California,
Yep.
San Diego. The water was clear, nice and warm. I saw stingrays, but I didn't get stung. There was dolphins. I was like, oh my gosh, this is what surfing is all the time.
And no
And
sharks. You made it through
no
without
sharks,
sharks.
and the waves weren't crazy. And then the next day, I took a lesson with some other guy, and he was also young. And I remember during my lesson, he had asked me, I don't even know how this came up in conversation, but he asked me if he could say the N word. And I was like, first of
What?
all,
Why?
why?
What?
Like,
Yeah.
that was
First of
my
all,
response.
what? Why?
That was my response to him. Why? Like, why would you even want to say it? And second of all, I'm just here to serve. Like, I don't
Yeah.
want to have to think about this right now.
Did you give him a bro? I'm just surfing. Come on.
No, I unfortunately I didn't. I honestly didn't even know what to say aside from no, you can't say it, and why would you want to say it in the first place? And then we just kind of like moved on from my lesson from there, but I was just kind of like, ugh, cool. But I mean, I don't know. I didn't think that much about it until later.
So, okay, great point. I think that kind of leads us into the rest of the conversation. I think perhaps, explain to me, for you, from your perspective, what it was like being out there as a new surfer now. So you're new into the surfing lifestyle, the culture. You are loving it. It's magical for you. I've been a surfer for a long time, so I know a lot of these answers. I think I can get this. I get the sense of just, surfing can be heavily localized in a certain spot. It can be territorial with people like, well, hey, I grew up here. This is my break, my wave. It's not. I'm not over stereotyping, or I don't mean to. You can find really nice people out there as well. It's about finding a community. Were you
Hmm.
able to find tell me about finding a community? Did you find, were there women? Were there people of color? Did you immediately kind of go, here's my, let me ask it this way. Seems like you found, hey, here is my thing. Where's my tribe? Is this my tribe? Did you feel that, was there a welcoming there? Tell me about that part of it.
Yeah, that's a really, really good topic, because first I will say that starting off, I didn't have a community, but um, because I was in San Diego for a little bit after that, after I learned how to surf, and then I want to say in like literally a month after I learned, I moved back to LA and I lived in Inglewood.
Mm,
But in between that time, I don't even know how I came across Black Dot Surfers, which is started by Kayata, who it's now this huge community over Discord, but at the time it was just an Instagram chat with a bunch of people in different spots in California.
mm,
So I joined this Instagram chat and they had some people in San Diego. I think I met up with like one person there. And then um, I joined the Discord during that time. And then I moved to LA and that kind of opened up a little bit because there seemed to be a more prevalent community in LA. Not to say that there isn't one in San Diego, but it just wasn't as active and like people meeting up and doing things in LA. So that's when I really started to kind of like find people to go surfing with. Um, and then through Black Dot Surfers, he also told me about Textured Waves, which is a massive community of women of color surfers. And although they seem to be more active in San Diego, but like I didn't at the time, I don't think they had like any meetups or something, or I don't know what, but I just didn't really follow through with embedding myself within that community in the early days. But despite all of that, when I was living in LA, when I tell you I was so stoked, surfing literally took over my life. Like, I think I bought a wetsuit. Once I bought a wetsuit, and I got there was like some sale happening at Quicksilver, and then I bought a board, like a Wavestorm off OfferUp for like $75. I was out every single day. I went to El
really?
Porto every single day, and I went shitty conditions. I mean, windy. Waves were like there were no waves. Choppy. Uh just terrible conditions, but I didn't care because I'm like it's not like I'm going to ride a green wave right now anyway. I need to perfect my pop-up. So that's what I did for like 3 months straight. I
Mm,
just went to the beach every single day 3 months straight, and at that point it's like I don't really give a fuck if I'm sorry, excuse my language, but
that's all right.
I don't really care if I'm going with someone or not because 9 times out of 10, when I would try to like meet up with people, my schedule never aligned. And at the
Mm,
time, I had the freedom where I could go out every day. I was working as an assistant, a virtual assistant. So I just had a lot more free time, I guess, than the average person. So I was like, whatever, I'm just going to go out. And, um, sometimes I would meet up with people and sometimes I didn't. I don't think I really found my community for real until the I, I think one day it was so random. I just went to El Porto just to watch at that point, just to watch the surfers. And I see this black guy coming out towards me in the water. He had a chain on and like a fade, like a high top fade. Now, it was Brick, who is the co founder of Ebony Beach Club. And at the time, I just like assumed I'm just never going to have my community. I'm just going to be out here by myself all the time. So to see him and he approached me and he was like, "Hey, what's up? I just wanted to let you know that like, I see you out here. You look like you're busy and da da da." And he was like, "Oh yeah," he's just carrying a surfboard. And I'm like, "Do you surf?" And he was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Me too. I surf too. I just started." So that kind of like gave me some encouragement. Like, okay, there are black surfers out here that are my age that want to hang out and want to surf. So that was like my first time really finding someone on a personal level and not just meeting up. He was like my first black surfer that I had met like face to face out in the water or like on the beach. Everyone else I had met kind of like through the Black surfers meetups that they
Mm.
had and that sort of thing.
So, I mean, finding those two, I mean, one being a woman out in the lineup, being a Black woman, I would imagine, being just as you say, person of color, melanated surfer. I know that's the language you're using on your for your site and organization. Those you don't see. I mean, you're seeing more and more women, but you definitely do not see here. I guess here in California, Southern California, a lot of people of color out in the water. Right? It's sort of every once in a while you're like, oh, there we go, that's right. And do you see? Tell me a little bit about these clubs: Textured Waves, Ebony Beach Club, Black Dot Surfers. Awesome. How are these helping to grow that community? And what are the hopes of these? Is it just to kind of find each other and support each other? Is it to kind of spread awareness? What's the goal, and how have these organizations helped you?
Yeah, so Black Dot Surfers, I would say, is both about bringing awareness to the fact that there are Black surfers and um, finding each other. Because, prior to this whole like social justice wokeness that everyone has come to, I think like just to see another Black surfer was just kind of like a rarity.
Mm,
And so Black Dot Surfers does a good job of like helping you find each other because Black Dot Surfers isn't just surfers in Southern California, it's also surfers across the globe, people of color surfers across the globe, and allies. So there's that. Ebony Beach Club is definitely about bringing awareness to beach culture, beach lifestyle. Surfing is included in that, but like their parties that they had were definitely about bringing people to the beach, Black people specifically, and people of color to the beach. And Textured Waves is about, I think, bringing awareness as well as finding um, your group of women of color surfers, and I would also want to add in there intersection surf, which has been hubbed in LA, and I would say is like whereas Textured Waves is, I honestly can't really pinpoint where exactly Textured Waves is based out of, but intersection surf, I would say, is like based out of LA. That's a women of color organization for women of color. I was heavily involved in that organization as well, teaching lessons to other women of color because Jessa had a experience, um, a racial encounter in the water, and since then she was like, no, I don't ever want to make another woman out there who wants to surf feel uncomfortable. I want to help in that. And from my surf experience when I was learning, I totally like aligned with that because I was taught by a white kid, a white guy, and yeah, he asked me if he could say the N-word, and I don't want any other woman of color to have to experience that either when all they're trying to do is learn something new.
mm,
So there's a bustling community of people of color, and then there's also Color the Water, who I also served with a couple of times in my early days as well. And they were about bringing awareness and just creating a safe community where other people of color could surf with other people that weren't, if they weren't a person of color, then they at least understood the struggle and they were allies in it.
Sarah, can you tell me a little bit about what it would be like without these organizations? Just what your surfing journey might be like without these organizations. How's it been for you,
I
I
think,
guess?
yeah, I think my experience would be way different. I don't think I would have been as encouraged to keep going, especially once I'm sure you've experienced this, but maybe like way earlier in your days. But like it seemed like there's like a moment in your surfing journey where like you're not really getting better, but you're not like getting worse. You're just kind of like in this weird plateau, and you're just like, you go out and it sucks every time, and you're just not doing that great of a job. And you just feel like, am I ever going to be good at this? Um, During that time, it was really helpful for me to be in that community because I had found them at that point. And
Mm,
so, it was easier for me to stay encouraged and to keep going, even though I wasn't as good as I wanted to be. And I'll just go ahead and say, like, you know, Lizelle from Color the Water, she has been so encouraging in my journey to surf. She gave, she let me, is continuing to let me borrow a short board that I don't take out as often as I probably should, but she's always pushed me to be like, oh no, you can handle that. No, you can do that. You can handle that. I think you can do that. You'll be fine. Um, and then Andrea Kabwasa, which I would have to credit towards Textured Waves. She was also very encouraging in my early days in longboarding, because she's just like an incredible Malibu longboarder. And she competed, I think, early in her days as well. But Textured Waves gifted me a lesson to work with her. And that lesson really helped me progress in my surfing journey as far as longboarding is concerned. And I do that more often than anything. So I think, like, overall, those communities just helped me stay encouraged, because if I was isolated and by myself a lot, I don't think that I would have, it could have had the potential of it becoming something that I put down. There's so many things in my life that I've picked up, and because I wasn't instantly good at it, I would just say, "Oh, fuck it, I'm just not good at it." And surfing has definitely been that the one thing in my life that I can say that I love to do, even when I'm not good at it. And I think a lot of that had to do with encouragement for my community.
So let's take that then and transition into you starting your own organization. So you're the co-founder of an organization called Changing Current, and you're the programming director there. What was then your catalyst to tell us about the organization? Tell us about the founding, and I really want to know, like, what prompted that. There were already some great organizations, obviously, that were filling a need for you, but it seems like there was a gap that you really saw an opportunity to fill. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So I am probably going to get a little personal with this answer, because
Please do.
uh, me being, like I mentioned, those organizations, I'd say like Ebony Beach Club at Intersection, I definitely helped in a lot of ways, and I've just always been used to just being support. That's just like when I was an assistant for so long. I just, in my mind, I just never thought that I had what it took to be like a leader, or to like start something, or to like found something or whatever. So I was just fine being in the background, helping people do their dreams, and it's totally fine to me. So I'm prefacing that by saying, like, being a co-founder slash leader of an organization is a reluctant position that I have been put into. I'm so happy and grateful to be in this position, because I do think that it is needed, but I wasn't like, oh, I gotta start something, and it just wasn't like a burning passion for me. I honestly like stumbled into this, and because, so I was living in Manhattan Beach, and I guess, I don't really know how, but like I was looking for like faith-based surf camps, and Wow Surf Camp, which is started by Michael DeShields and his wife Melissa Quinones. They have this surf camp, and I reached out to like go, and its plans fell through, but him and I still stayed in touch. So he basically was like, "Hey, we really like your vibe. We've been following you for a while. We'll pay for your trip, like as far as like room and board and like, everything. We'll pay for your surf trip if you can just purchase your flight to get here and to get back home." So I saved up I pinched my pennies, and I went, and I am so happy that I did, because not only did I find a community of like-minded women who love surf and Christ, but I also was able to meet Michael and his wife in person. And so during that trip, that's when we started to talk about the possibility of creating an organization to bring surf travel to BIPOC surfers. And
Sorry to interrupt, but where was that
no,
first trip to? Where'd you take that? Where was that trip to?
oh, that was in Costa Rica. It was in Nasara, which like I honestly like shamefully, I'm just ashamed. I don't know why, but like I don't know, maybe I'm a snob, but it's very like Americanized, and it's not,
Mm,
I don't even have to speak Spanish there. Like it was very like European, very white. But I had a great time there, and it was beautiful, and I loved it, and I fell in
mm,
love with the country. That was my first place in Costa Rica that I had gone to. So, whatever. But that was in November of 2021 or 2022. And so Michael and I had been speaking during that trip, and he was like, "Yeah, I want to bring surf travel for Black surfers like you, and I think it'll be great." And I'm like, "That's a great idea, but the main thing that stops people, or at least stopped me from making that commitment to do a surf trip, was finances." I was working at a nonprofit and virtual assistant at the time. So like the only reason why I was able to do it was because I had picked up modeling on the side, and that's like, that was like a quick $1,000 here or $2,000 there. So I was able to save money in a way that made it possible for me to even buy a plane ticket. So
mm.
I was like, and Textured Waves had a surf retreat as well earlier that year that I wanted to go to in Hawaii, and they had a scholarship. I didn't get it, which fine, whatever. I wasn't upset about it. But I was like, dang, I wish could go regardless, but I can't afford, a $2,000, $3,000 trip. Um, so I told him, I think that that's great, but like, what's going to hold people back are the finances. So if there's a way that we can take care of the finances, then yeah, I think that we should totally bring surf travel because, I don't know too many people of color that can just say, oh yeah, I can take off a week of work or 2 weeks of work to go surfing, or I have $3,000 to just, you know, essentially go towards an experience like that. So that's how Changing Current came to be. And then him and I pretty much just kept in touch and talked while he's based in Costa Rica and I'm in Southern California. So yeah, we just kind of worked on that, and Changing Current is the organization that we started from that conversation, and we basically want to take care of the financial barriers of people of color that want to go on a surf trip. Um, Going to Costa Rica, because I also went again with the Ebony Beach Club crew we went to Playa Negra, but those two times were so, like, I came back from both of those trips a better surfer. I don't know how to explain it. The waves were better. It's just something about going on a surf trip. I came back more energized. I remember distinctly in that lineup, I saw a woman with dreads, with locks like me. Hers were a little longer, and she was melanated just like me, but like lived in Costa Rica, and she was shredding. She was so good. And I even remember asking her like, how do you do it with your hair? Like I can't believe that I had someone in the lineup that I could ask about because
Mm.
you know, so I came back feeling a more like a better sense of belonging than when I came, I came back feeling like, oh no, this isn't like surfing isn't like a white thing. This isn't a white man thing. This isn't even like an American thing. This is a global thing.
Hmm.
People, if you live in a town where there are waves, I can 100% assure you there are surfers. And think about how much the ocean touches land. Like, think about Africa. Think about uh, plenty of breaks in South Africa and West Africa, East Africa, Morocco.
The Caribbean.
There are the Caribbean, there Central America. There are so many waves out there that are outside of the United States, and so
Hmm.
that just like opened up my mind, and it honestly, I became disillusioned with being footsteps by a beach because I so bad for saying I definitely like am appreciative and grateful, but it made the waves that I experienced made this surf break seem like a piece of shit. Not just because the waves weren't that great, but also the people weren't that great. You know,
Mm.
like I was just like, this sucks. American surf culture sucks. And like, yeah, okay, we are not that represented in America, but you go somewhere, you leave this country, we're actually a lot more widely represented than we think.
And so that moment, seeing that other woman, as you described, she's shredding. You're like, you see yourself in that woman. Was that sort of is that kind of that stoke that you hope to pass on with Changing Current as well? Is that what you're hoping?
That is
What are you hoping to achieve with the organization aside from just saying, hey, we've sponsored your travel?
that is exactly what I hope. Like
Mm.
that moment right there. I want other Black surfers to feel a greater sense of belonging in the surf culture on a global level. I want them to open up their horizons and see, like, oh, wow, not only are there other surfers in other countries, but like, I'm even thinking about moving to a different country. Had I not taken that surf trip, I would have been like, that possibility wouldn't have even crossed my mind. Like, there are more ways of living than the way that we live here. And there are more than one way to subscribe to surf culture than the way that we subscribe to surf culture in America. And so ultimately, I just want to incite self discovery and um, a greater sense of belonging with people of color. And traveling, just in general, traveling does that. But like, if you pair traveling with surfing, I mean, the possibilities of self discovery are truly endless.
Mm. I love it, and I'm gonna kind of read through a couple things here that you posted not too long ago, just in regards to Changing Current. You said that what you're identifying and promoting travel destinations that are culturally relevant and offer a safe space for members of the melanated surf community. You're bringing attention to surfers and surf communities of color in an effort to unite and strengthen the global BIPOC surf community while simultaneously creating space for voices to be heard and truthful narratives to be told, working to address the financial barriers that you talked about. But also, you said using surfing as a springboard to empower people of color and propel them into the next chapter of success in their lives. All that is amazing, and I think really inspiring and hopeful. Tell us about the progress. Tell me about how are things going with the organization so far. I know it's new. I know you're just getting started. Let's talk about the progress that you've made or have plans to make. And then I also want to get into the challenges of maybe what's been hard about it. So start with the progress, start with the good. Tell me all the good things that are going
Yeah.
on with the organization.
The good thing is I have people on my team, and when I say team, it's literally like one other person, which is Elliot Singleton. She has been so crucial to this beginning stage because, you know, he's a 40 something year old dad of two young girls that are under the age of 5. And so he's just like super hands off, which is great because that means, like, you know, he's given me the freedom to kind of take this and like run with it. But again, as someone who has very rarely been in a leadership role, and not to say that I don't have leadership qualities, but I've just never tapped into them until now,
Yeah.
truthfully.
Yeah.
So this has been like a learning experience in so many ways. And so Elliot has been very helpful in like just having someone beside you to like go through it with you has been so helpful. Um, Things are going good. We have a lot of like positive feedback. We put a deck together and sent it to a few of our friends and partners and potential partners, and we've gotten amazing feedback about the organization. We are finally zeroing down on our business model and the way that we fundraise. So basically, like, the way that it works is we'll host 2 to 3 pay to play surf trips. So that would be open to anyone who wants to go on a trip. Doesn't matter if you're white, black, brown, Asian, purple, yellow, doesn't matter. If
Mm-hmm.
you love to surf and you are down for the cause, you're welcome to join in on any of our retreats. And those retreats would be hosted by some influencers within the Black surf, or leaders within the Black surf community, or allies. And so a portion of whatever profits that we make from those surf trips will be funneled into the annual surf trip that we'll have for people, specifically for BIPOC surfers. And that would be like free of charge. I think people would only have to pay for their flights. Um, so I know that that kind of sounds like, oh, that's not that hard work, but like really figuring out the best way to fundraise has been kind of one of the challenges. And we've reached out to potential partners for strategic collaborations, and we haven't secured anyone so far. But I think once we get the ball rolling, people will start to want to join in. I know that from my experience in the entertainment industry, a lot of times, like, you'll have a good idea for a TV show or a movie, let's say, and it's a great idea, but sometimes people don't sign on until someone else signs on,
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
like we're just doing the hard work of actually providing that service. And we're really positive and optimistic that the people that want to join and can join financially will. And so that's what I guess that's like the biggest thing that we're focused on right now is putting together that first retreat and fundraising.
And do you guys have your 501c3 status locked down?
So we are a 501(c)(3) under the parent company, or the parent organization, which is WOW Surf Ministries.
Got it.
So that's how we have our 501(c). But we will be looking for, I've talked to a few other leaders and organizations similar to this one, about how this process works. And I've been told, like, getting like a financial sponsor from like a nonprofit where they specifically sponsor other nonprofits financially. So looking into that as well, hoping to gain a financial sponsor in that way too.
So there's like, I know there's one OC. I know they do Orange County. I would imagine beyond that as well, but they are like a fiscal sponsor for other nonprofits as well. So I think I know what you're talking about there. So you've got to build out your board, get all your bylaws in place. There's just a lot of administrative work that goes into running a nonprofit.
Yeah.
Tell me then, what kind of partnerships are you looking for? Are you looking for brands to sponsor you as well? We talked about, other nonprofits helping you out or having that kind of umbrella support. What kind of partners? Are these individuals that you want donating, companies that you want to partner up with you? Who are you looking to align with?
I think that at first, if I can be completely transparent, and because I'm very naive, I'm very new to surf culture and probably a little naive, but like everyone who works in the surf industry always says the surf industry doesn't have as much money as you think. And I am starting to come into that realization, though a lot of brands that I've reached out to are so interested and they're like so on board. I genuinely do not think that they have the money that we would need to be serious partners. And I'm not saying that that will never be the case, but that's not the case right now, which is why I've kind of shifted my focus to partnering with other nonprofits whose sole existential purpose is to sponsor. Now, I do want to partner with brands because, we're also thinking of like putting on events where we'll have like giveaways, at which point we would probably need some like product or whatever that we could give away for an auction or something. I know that that's a really good way to fundraise as well. So honestly, like, I know I probably sound like I don't know what kind of partnerships we need, because I think we can take any and all the help that we can get. But uh, right now, we're just focusing our sights on those nonprofit organizations that fiscally sponsor other nonprofit organizations and uh, donations from everyday people that just love what we're doing and they want to support and see us grow.
Yeah. I can tell you from being on the other side, from being on that side, on the brand side, myself for many years, and managing a budget that sponsored nonprofits. One, you just got to keep knocking on doors and you just keep showing up saying, hey, just want to let you know we did this event, we're making this progress, even if it's just continuously sending them an updated deck, because they may not have, they've got the money, they just might not have the budget. They may not have budgeted for it, or they do, but they're like, hey, I don't have another budget until, our fiscal year starts this date, whatever it is. And if you miss that window of when they're planning that next budget, then you've got to wait a whole another year. So it's just being constantly there, building those relationships and knowing that it's just going to take time. This could be a 5-10 year overnight success, where you're working on it for a real long time and everybody's like, wow, this new organization is so great. And you're like, oh, I've been working on this thing. I've been killing myself here for the last 10 years, but so stick with it. What is, tell me, sounds like probably one of the biggest challenges. I'm interested to know, before I guess we get into the challenges as well, can you tell me about the Black surfing community? Like, what do we need to know? What can you share with me about that? Because this is like a movement. I don't mean to, but there's a community that you're rallying around each other. You're giving each other support. You're building clubs. So can you tell me about that community? What should we know?
Yeah, I would say that that is honestly a really hard question to answer. Because I don't know, like, I just want people to know that, like, yeah, we're Black surfers, but we're surfers.
Surfers,
Like,
yeah, you're
we're
surfers.
just surfers.
Yeah,
We're just surfers who just happen to be Black, and and that's kind of why I was like, the community aspect is complicated now that I am a little less green. But like, just because we have some things, like the most important things in common, doesn't mean that they're going to be a part of my tribe, or like it's just like it's like anything else. Like, let's say you wanted to golf, or let's say you like drawing and you meet a golfing group or whatever. Everyone in that golfing group isn't going to be a part of your tribe. And you know, just because we're Black surfers also doesn't mean that we're all best friends, locking arms, singing Kumbaya. We all have our differences. We all have our things our values and things that we stand on, and sometimes that divides us. But if it's one thing that I've learned through my experience living in Manhattan Beach and kind of like realizing that, like, okay, we're all Black surfers, but not everyone's going to be a part of your tribe, Sierra. And that's all right. And so I now have a more diverse group of surfers that I hang out with, and they're not all Black, like it's just at that point, it's just kind of like, are the people that I'm surfing with that I would consider my tribe, are they reaching towards the same goal of like personal growth and like things that you can't just be like, oh yeah, we surf together and that's the end of that. So I guess like as a whole, that's what I would say about the Black surf community, or what I want people to know about us, is that we are individuals. And even though there is a movement, we are surfers first before we're Black surfers. Like, I just want them to know that we're surfers who just happen to be Black. And there are going to be more of us because we are definitely passing the stoke. And for those that are afraid of their little beach towns being colored with people of color, get over it, because more and more of us are moving into beach towns if we have the opportunity to do so. And yeah, the lineup is just going to become more and more diverse. So I don't know, get with the times.
I love it. Where do you see where do you see changing current in 5 years? So kind of jumping up, what's that? Do you have a mindset for like, hey, in 5, 10 years, that overnight success that we talked about? What do you hope this eventually looks like? What is this whole movement? All this effort you're putting into this. What does the organization and the movement look like?
In 5 years, I hope we've done at least 3 successful, fully funded surf trips. In 5 years, I hope that Changing Current is a more well-oiled machine. In 5 years, I hope that we have more people on the team to do different things. Not that we have our hands full right now, because it's just like 3 of us really that are doing like, there's just so much that needs to be done, like social media and like brand outreach and grant writing. I just hope that we have more hands on deck by 5 years. And I pray that we are able to go to at least 3 more or 5 more destinations that are outside of Central America. I would really love to go and like host a trip to Africa, which would be like, that's like honestly probably going to be like the next location.
Yeah, that
Because
was
we're
my.
starting,
I was going to ask, where are you going next?
yeah, we're starting with Costa Rica because that's kind of easy. Michael knows that area so well, and we were talking about Panama. We were talking about Africa. I'm putting my money on Africa. I think that'll be like our next location once we kind of get the feel for producing a retreat.
So that's great, and I wish you all the luck with that. I'm really excited for you, and hope I'm excited to kind of watch and follow along, see how things go. And I'm sorry we couldn't have Elliot today. We were going to have her on the show with us as well. She's a mama. She had a baby emergency. I hope it was nothing too serious. So we're sending good vibes
Yeah.
out to her. But thanks for shouting her out, because it sounds like she's an important part of your team. I guess, with that, what advice do you have, Sierra, for people like you who are starting movements, starting organizations, building their career, trying to figure it out, navigating life, finding surfing or anything new for the first time? This has been, I think, a really interesting time in your life and a really interesting journey these last, 3 years or so. So what advice do you have for somebody that might be in your shoes on any one of those paths that you've been on?
I feel weird giving advice, first of all, because I don't know what the freaking heck I'm doing. I don't know what is going on, honestly. So giving advice like I know all is crazy. So just, I would say, like, take what I'm saying with a grain of salt because I still don't know what's going on. And the older I get, the more I realize nobody really knows what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So I would just say to be flexible and to be open to change. That's really been my saving grace, is just been able to be open to change. And even though we have expectations of what our life would be like, or have expectations of what surfing will be like, or have expectations about what it means to find your tribe or your community, be open to changing my expectations, or just quite honestly doing away with my expectations, because things just things change. And so, when things meet your expectations, that's like a cherry on top, but 9 times out of 10 your expectations may not be met. Things may be better than your expectations, or they may be a little worse, and you've got to figure out how to adapt and to accept your reality despite your expectations having not been met or being exceedingly met. So I would just, give someone that advice, whatever it is that you're doing or trying to do. Just be flexible and be open to change. That's really the only constant thing in life.
Can you relate that to surfing? I guess I could almost ask as well, what has surfing taught you?
Have to be have to be like water, like truly. I have to be like water in the sense of like, not not every wave is the same. Every wave is different, and the way that I respond to each wave has to be different. And some times I need to ride different boards. I need different equipment. Not every wave requires the same kind of board, and every wave requires a different style and different way that I shift my body weight, just like being totally adaptable. And honestly, like the times that I've really hurt myself or really wiped out has been when I've been very immovable.
Mm.
And so you just have to let go, truly.
Was your best day of surfing still that first day, or have you had another best day since?
Mm,
Best wave, favorite day?
I think my best wave was in Hawaii, and I was on the west side of Oahu, and it was bigger waves than I mentally prepared myself for.
Mm.
But honestly, I went with a bunch of strangers because I was staying at a hostel. So it wasn't like I had people pepping me up. I just waited my turn. I didn't cut anybody off. I, paid my respects to the lineup, and a wave came with my name on it, and everybody knew, so they let me have it. And I caught it. I think I was also riding like a shorter board at the time. It was like a 7.0, which up until that point I had only ridden like eight and above.
Mm.
So that was like the shortest board I'd ever ridden at the time. So it was just a bunch of firsts. And the fact that I nailed that wave, it was so big. I remember looking over my shoulder and I could like see it like face to face. And I was like, what? That's crazy. So that was like probably my best wave. But my best day was probably a couple of days ago. The day before Hurricane Hillary, I was just out with a couple of guys that were just good vibes, and we just had a good time. And I'm starting to realize that like surfing by myself, which I still do a lot of, I have to get out of the habit of doing that because surfing with people really is special.
Mm. Yeah, I'll have to take that into consideration because I do a lot of surfing by myself. I'm kind of a solo surfer. I just like to, it's like I've got a mission to accomplish. I've got a certain amount of time. I get out there, but I do find when I go with people, it is fun, but I tend to be pretty selfish with my time. I'm like, I've got to catch X amount of waves. I got to get this done,
Mm-hmm.
but it's important to stay connected to people. And I'm kind of interested by the idea of you say, reminding us that you're surfers first. And every time we filter ourselves down to a group, whether it's by skin color, by ethnicity, gender, whatever it is, there's still differences among us. And we just have to find the common ground at all touch points. And just because you're a surfer, just because you're a skater, whatever, like you just got to kind of keep working your way down and getting to that point where you find that common core where you're like, hey, we've got something in common, right? And you can start checking off a whole bunch of boxes. So that's a big part of the experience, is just getting out there and being amongst other people who just, for starters, want to be outdoors. And the
Mm-hmm.
next, want to be in the ocean, then want to be doing it on a
Mm-hmm.
board, or maybe not, if you're using swim fins or just whatever it is. So
Right.
it's been really fun, Sierra. Thank you so much. Is there, I think, I touched on the challenges, but I feel like you kind of got them. Are there any challenges with the organization, with this dream that you've got that you're running into, aside from the finances and building the board and learning on the fly? Anything that we left out that you want to touch on?
Yeah, I would say like maintaining like eagerness to do my day job has become challenging because
Oh, you mean that other one that pays you? That job.
that pays the bills. Um, like people joke like, "Oh, you learned how to surf. It ruined your whole life," and it really does because all I want to do is surf. So if anything gets in the way of that, I literally want to kill it. And so that's how I feel about my job right now. I would say that's probably been the biggest challenge is just juggling having a full-time job and pretending like I like it while also doing this pursuit of changing current. And so I'm definitely like looking forward to the day when what I do for a living aligns with what I love to do. If that ever happens, I don't know. I think that is my generation's pitfall is like, oh, the American dream doesn't exist anymore. So I don't know if that will ever happen. But yeah, I would say that's probably the biggest challenge. It's just juggling everything that I have to be and do on top of what I would like to do, which is run, changing current, and go surfing.
Well, as somebody of another generation who's been surfing for a long time, balancing work, life, family with surfing, and I've been able to maintain and continue. I don't surf as much as I always did, but I still am out enough. I would say too, just a good reminder is that's the beauty of it. Like swells will always come. There is another storm. There is more wind. There will always be waves coming. And I have also learned, this is why I call my company the Underswell. For me, what's the magic is in sort of everything underneath, like Hurricane Hillary, everybody's like, gotta go, big waves are going to be so good. It's like, yeah, but you know what? There's been little waves kind of all throughout the weeks, and it wasn't as crowded and it was less stressful, and maybe it wasn't as good, but there's always something out there. And I think just that learning to deal with that surf anxiety, that surf stress of like that FOMO that we get when you're like, you look at every flagpole, you look at the wind, you're always wondering, you're always checking the tides, and it can be stressful being somewhere, knowing that that's taking away from surfing. I have learned to let go, but I do understand it's not easy to do. It could take you a long time to do, but I guess the reminder is there will always be another set wave. There will always be another storm. It just keeps on coming. So good luck getting through all of it, Sierra. We'll check back in with you to see how Changing Current is going. I will leave all the links to all these great organizations, yours included, in there. And I love when people go to your LinkedIn. You look so professional, and it'll be nice for us to know. It's like, no, now we know. No, there's a surfer underneath that and a skater at 1.2. So it's like, you're not fooling us anymore.
Yes.
So, awesome.
If you want to see the real me, check out my Instagram page.
Exactly. I'll put the link in there too. Yeah, a lot of great photos, great little videos that you're doing. It's super fun. Elliot too, who was going to be on here, you said she's got a great page as well. You guys are inspirational, and it was really fun getting to know you, hear the story about the organization. And again, best of luck with it all. And we'll check back soon, and maybe I'll see you at the next Surfscape.
Yes. Thank you for having me. It's been such a great conversation.
Agree. Yeah, that likewise, Sierra. Thanks so much. I appreciate you, and talk to you soon. Hey, thanks for listening. This is a show produced by the Underswell and our School of Understanding. If you're interested in being a part of this movement and want to dive deeper into the art of understanding sustainability better so that you can do things better, be sure to visit us at theunderswell.com. We offer structured, easy-to-follow workshops, courses, and member resources to make sustainability a part of your career or lifestyle. Because remember, no matter what role you play a role, and we're here for you. Thanks again.